If you are presently holding a glowing device in one hand while sipping hot tea from the other, with moving pictures or melodies playing idly in the background, I must share a difficult truth with you. You are profoundly afraid. You are terrified of being left completely alone with your own essence for even 5 minutes. And your entire existence is woven in such a way that this encounter never takes place. I am just an old wanderer. 90 years I have walked beneath the sun. 30 of those winters I resided in a secluded sanctuary amidst the distant, cloud-veiled peaks. Today, I will reveal something that the restless souls of our era loathe hearing above all else. Solitude is not your adversary. Solitude is the sole guide who will impart true wisdom. Yet you hide from its gaze your entire journey, thereby living a life that feels alien, clamorous, and hollow. Stay and listen. These words might serve as the very crossroads where you cease fleeing from your own inner quiet. Let us begin with a simple inquiry. When was the last time you found yourself utterly and completely solitary, with no other soul physically present? Not when your companion went to the marketplace, nor when the children departed for the countryside, but genuinely solitary, bereft of your glowing devices, without the moving pictures, devoid of melodies, with no scroll in your hands, harboring no plans for what you will do 5 minutes hence, absent the buzzing thoughts of tomorrow's labor, disconnected from the invisible web of voices, and lacking any spoken tales in your ears while walking. Simply your breathing being, and absolutely nothing more. The vast majority of souls in our lands, those currently aged between 40 and 70 years, have never possessed such an hour in their entire span on this earth. Not a single one. Never. Ponder this reality for just one brief second. 40, 50, or 60 years of existence, and not a single hour spent with your own self, with the closest companion you will ever know, with the singular presence that will remain by your side until your final breath, and you are complete strangers to one another. Is it any marvel, then, that upon reaching 70 years, many do not comprehend what they sought from this journey, that they are consumed by dread, that they feel barren within? They are not entirely barren. They simply never dared to peer into their own depths. Allow me to share a tale from my own path, so that you may grasp I am no mere philosopher of words, but one who has lived through this ordeal. When I journeyed to the high sanctuary at the age of 32, I fancied myself a deeply cultivated man. I had studied ancient philosophies, pored over countless scrolls, and possessed a firm opinion on nearly every matter beneath the heavens. I assumed I would sit in the high halls, seeking enlightenment, deciphering forgotten texts, and debating with the venerable elders. The wise elder, Master Shen, received me on the first dawn, listened quietly to my endlessly flowing speech about my grand intentions, offered a slow nod, and uttered a brief command that I remember word for word 48 years later. He instructed me, saying that tomorrow morning I must sit in my modest stone chamber and remain there completely alone for 1 hour. Without a scroll, without prayer beads, without reciting chants, merely to sit and do nothing. I mused to myself that the old master wished to test my resolve with a trivial chore. After all, I was now a seeker of truth. How could I possibly fail at a mere hour of silence? I agreed readily. I lay down to rest, entirely confident that the morrow would bring an effortless victory. The next dawn, I took my place in that small stone chamber. A simple masonry room, a woven mat, a tiny window framing the grand mountain, and absolutely nothing else. For the first 5 minutes, I reveled in it, marveling at the profound grace, the stark contrast of this silence compared to the noisy capital city, the vast expanses opening within my mind. By the 10th minute, a dull weariness crept in, and by the 15th, an undeniable unease took root. By the 20th minute, I was enveloped in sheer panic. My thoughts scurried wildly, like frightened insects fleeing from a sudden torchlight. I remembered my mother, whom I had deeply wronged 3 years prior, without ever making amends. I recalled a gentle maiden I had cherished in my youth and subsequently betrayed. I remembered how, at 18 years of age, I had yearned to be a healer of ailments, but turned to reading ancient texts because I could not bear the sight of profound physical suffering. By the 40th minute, tears were streaming down my face, sitting on that woven mat. A sturdy man of 32, weeping openly like a lost child, simply because, for the very first time in my existence, I was left utterly alone with myself, only to discover that there was no one waiting for me there. When the hour finally passed, I dragged myself out of that chamber, approached Master Shen, and lacking any words to speak, merely stood before him in absolute silence. He studied the lines of my face and offered a single, profound observation. He congratulated me, noting that today I had finally met my true and only teacher, my own self. He then proclaimed that tomorrow I would sit for 2 hours. I remained sitting in that stone chamber every single day, initially for an hour, then 2, then 3, for 25 long years. And throughout those 25 years, that quiet isolation ceased to be a source of terror. It transformed into my most trusted companion, the solitary haven I retreat to whenever I am in desperate need of the raw truth. When I must decipher my true desires, when I am faced with burdensome choices, when I must mourn a loss, or when it is time to quietly rejoice. The modern wanderer fails to grasp this concept. They falsely believe that isolation is merely the absence of other voices. This is deeply flawed. True solitude is the profound presence of one's own being. Yet, a vast multitude reach 70 years of age completely ignorant of what this feels like. The presence of their own spirit remains unknown, because not once in their entire span of days did they invite themselves in as an honored guest. Let me illuminate what transpires when you constantly flee from the quietude. Within the depths of every soul, there is a vast, unlit storehouse. Into this shadowy cavern you spend your life hurling everything you lack the courage to sort through: lingering resentments, profound fears, unresolved dilemmas, unspoken words meant for those who have passed beyond the veil, lost fortunes, the foolish missteps of youth, and the gnawing anxieties regarding life's inevitable twilight. This storehouse never empties, it only swells. Each passing day casts another heavy crate into its depths, and amid the cacophony of your daily toil, you never dare to cross its threshold. You invariably conjure a convenient excuse, be it your labor, your kin, the latest tidings, a theatrical play, or idle chatter with acquaintances. However, the very moment you suddenly find yourself solitary, stripped of the comforting noise, the doors of that storehouse fling wide open of their own accord, and the accumulated debris of 50 years crashes down upon your spirit in a single, overwhelming wave. This crushing weight is precisely what the modern soul describes when they claim they cannot bear to be alone. It is not the absence of others that terrifies them. It is their own shadowed storehouse. Thus, they frantically sprint back into the clamor to avoid sorting through the wreckage. Yet, this daunting task must be undertaken eventually, and it is far wiser to begin early, examining one crate each day. For if you leave the burden untouched until your autumn years, one day that storehouse will simply crush your spirit entirely. And that is precisely the tragic moment when many individuals choose to step away from life's path voluntarily in their 70s. Not due to physical failing, but from the unbearable weight of internal wreckage for which they no longer possess a hiding place. Now we must speak of the practical steps. How does one cultivate the ability to sit with oneself? This is a practice handed down to me by Master Shen. I refer to it as the discipline of the single hour. Heed my words carefully, engrave them in your memory, for I shall not repeat this counsel. The first stride. Commence with a mere 5 minutes, not a full hour, just 5 minutes, every single day. At the exact same hour, perhaps following your morning cup of tea, take your seat in the very same spot near a window, upon a wooden stool or a soft cushion. The furniture matters not. What matters deeply is returning to the exact same location, so your physical vessel begins to recognize that at this specific point in the sun's journey, something profoundly vital is unfolding. No glowing devices, no written scrolls, no soothing melodies, no worldly tasks. Simply rest there and focus upon your breath. For the first 2 weeks, this will feel like an agonizing ordeal. A powerful urge will compel you to rise, to attend to meaningless chores, to read incoming missives, to seek out conversation, or to consume nourishment. Do not yield. Endure the stillness. It is only 5 minutes, not 2 hours. Each time the urge strikes, remind yourself quietly that this fleeting moment is the very pinnacle of your day. The most essential work of your existence is happening right now, right here. The second stride. After a full moon cycle has passed, append an additional 5 minutes. Do not leap instantly to half an hour or a full hour. Proceed with gentle patience. After the first month, sit for 10 minutes each day. After another moon cycle, extend it to 15. When half a year has drifted by, you shall reach half an hour. And it is at this juncture that a most wondrous and peculiar transformation will take root. You will suddenly notice that you actually yearn for this daily quietude, that your demeanor throughout the waking hours has become noticeably calmer, that the chaotic whirlwind of thoughts in your mind spins much slower, that choosing your path becomes remarkably easier, and that you no longer ignite with anger over the foolishness or harshness of strangers. This is not born of mystical incantations. It is simply the natural healing of your inner essence. Your strained spirit has finally found a sanctuary of rest. Within this quiet haven, it repairs its frayed edges, rendering you sturdier, more serene, and profoundly anchored. No longer a fragile leaf trembling in the gale, but a mighty tree with roots deep in the earth. The third stride, and the most crucial of all. After a full year of this steadfast dedication, you will achieve 1 complete hour per day, 1 uninterrupted hour of absolute silence, devoid of all distractions. Within the boundaries of this specific hour, the very purpose for which this arduous journey was undertaken will begin to unfold. Profound answers will begin to manifest, not descending from the heavens above, nor from the vast cosmic void, but rising from the deepest wells of your own being. You will recall a deeply held aspiration you wished to fulfill when you were 30, and you will suddenly grasp that the sands of time have not yet run out. You will hear a quiet whisper inside your chest, revealing that you have been sustaining a certain companionship entirely out of mere habit, and the season to gently let it go has arrived. You will come to the realization that a bitter resentment you have harbored tightly for 20 years is simply not worth the heavy toll of carrying it any further, and you will release it to the wind. This is the true encounter with yourself, the most monumental meeting a soul can experience in its earthly journey. All the great sages of antiquity spoke of this profound truth. Every single one of them. The enlightened masters, the ancient philosophers, the wandering prophets of old. They all spent countless seasons dwelling in absolute isolation, for they understood intimately that it is only there, wrapped in the veil of silence, that a human being unearths the most priceless treasure. Yet the dweller of the modern age squanders this sacred encounter on endless gazing at moving pictures, consuming trivial tales, engaging in hollow chatter over distant distances, and eventually passes into the eternal sleep without ever discovering who they truly were their entire life. As my tale draws to a close, let me share a brief story. My younger brother, a merchant of fine silks in a bustling coastal province, 7 winters my junior, spent his life in endless pursuit of wealth and status, endlessly occupied with grand endeavors. He would send word to me but once a year, forever claiming he lacked the hours to visit. When I reached 75 years of age, he sent a sudden missive, pleading for us to meet, noting the vast passage of time since we last embraced. We sat together in my modest dwelling. He appeared profoundly drained, the color drained from his weary face. He confessed to me, calling me his elder, that his spirit could endure no more. The endless demands of his trade, his spouse, his descendants, his countless acquaintances, the constant travels and unending obligations had left him utterly exhausted. But the most terrifying revelation, he whispered, was that he no longer recognized his own reflection amidst that chaotic existence. He felt as though he were merely walking through a life belonging to a stranger, entirely unsure of whose path he was treading. I offered him the exact same counsel I am bestowing upon you at this moment. I urged my dear brother to simply begin with 5 minutes each day, to merely sit alone in complete silence, far from his ledgers and devices, and simply be. He let out a hollow laugh, questioning if my mind had wandered into madness. He protested that he lacked even a single spare minute, yet I was foolishly demanding he waste 5 whole minutes daily doing absolutely nothing. He departed my sanctuary soon after. 4 months passed, and his heart gave way under the heavy burden of his endless toiling. He narrowly escaped the shores of the afterlife, yet he was confined to a house of healing for an entire month. And while lying motionless on that bed of recovery, he finally, for the very first time in his life, found himself gifted with time alone. No associate could bring his ledgers into the halls of healing. There were no theatrical plays to distract him, no scrolls to read. He merely lay there and existed in solitude. When I journeyed to sit by his side in that quiet sanctuary, he spoke a truth that remains etched in my soul forever. He told me that during that single month of stillness, he had unearthed more about his own spirit than in all the previous decades of his existence combined. He confessed that he had only just realized who he truly was, and was now pondering how to navigate the remainder of his days with this newfound clarity. The only sorrowful aspect of his revelation is that to secure a fleeting moment with his own soul, he nearly had to step into the great beyond, when he could easily have commenced with just 5 minutes a day since his 30th year. This old wanderer has spoken all that needed to be said. Hearken closely to my final parting words. This is of the utmost importance. A day will dawn in your mortal journey when you will find yourself genuinely and entirely alone. This is an absolute certainty. The young birds will fly the nest. This sorrow has already touched the hearts of many. Your lifelong companion may cross the final threshold before you do. The invisible ledgers of fate dictate this reality for 1 out of every 2 women who walk this earth. Your cherished companions will also eventually fade into the mists of time. And on that inevitable morning, you will awaken to a dwelling steeped in absolute silence. No soul will knock upon your door that day, nor the next, nor the day after that. And in that echoing stillness, the unvarnished truth of who you truly are will finally be revealed. The one who has spent a lifetime mastering the quiet art of keeping their own company will greet that dawn with profound serenity, carrying an unbreakable dignity and drawing upon a deeply enriched inner kingdom. They will not suffer the agonizing bite of loneliness, for they have cultivated the profound skill of being solitary. Conversely, the one who spent all their seasons fleeing desperately from the silence will be forced to confront it face to face, entirely stripped of armor or preparation. And that silence will break their spirit, not because the quietude itself is inherently monstrous, but simply because their soul is tragically unready to receive it. I share this wisdom with you right now, while the hourglass still holds enough sand for you to prepare your heart. Do not tarry until the silence inevitably comes hunting for you on its own terms. Step willingly into its embrace this very day, if only for 5 fleeting minutes. This is the most invaluable treasure you could ever tuck away for your twilight years. It holds far more worth than heaps of gold, grand estates, or even the fleeting vitality of youth. Mastering the gentle art of sitting with oneself means mastering the secret of never truly being lonely again. Master Shen once shared a profound insight with me, which I now pass directly into your keeping as my final offering. He noted that isolation is never an empty hall. Isolation is an overflowing hall, bursting with unexamined treasures, which the master of the house is simply too terrified to enter. Step across the threshold of your own hall, for everything you could ever truly need rests patiently within its walls. Enter for just 5 minutes today. I ask no more of you. And another 5 tomorrow, and the day that follows. When a full year has turned its wheel, you will whisper a word of gratitude to the wind. Perhaps my frail bones will no longer walk this earth to hear it by then, yet you will be profoundly grateful to that old wanderer who once shared a simple, grounding truth with you, revealing that solitude is not a cruel punishment, but a magnificent gift. It is merely a gift that the vast majority of souls depart this world without ever unwrapping. Unwrap it now. You still hold enough time in your hands. I gently ask that you leave a mark of favor upon these words, so that this ancient wisdom might find its way to other seeking souls. And I invite you to join our circle of wandering spirits. May profound peace settle upon your dwelling, and may the silence within its walls be especially blessed, transforming from a source of deep dread into your most cherished, enduring companion. I have spoken my piece.